Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and squids, if that's how you choose to identify this evening. If you can see my face and or hear my voice, you know it is time once again for the worst 120 minutes or so in all of sports. That's right. It is time for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I'm Mike, and I am joined, as I am pretty much every week, by my faithful partner in all things podcasting, producer Stead. How goes it, good sir?
That's going good, going real good. I want to say this year in particular is a fantastic fall for sports.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. I will say this, I think probably too, because where I'm currently living, I'm paying closer attention to like the end of the baseball season because the Braves are really good. Not that I'm a huge Braves fan, but there's a winter where I'm living, so there's a lot of coverage there. And then you got, you had the NFL starting up. You got the World Cup going on. You had the whole thing with Coco Gauff winning the U.S. Open for tennis. We have the Rugby World Cup going on as well, which is great. And so there's just so many things to look at. There's so many choices every single day. And of course, things that I've watched, we had the World Championships in track, had Diamond League wrapping up, two very big fights in the UFC the last couple of weekends, which have been, controversial, but fantastic affairs. So it's just a really good time to be a sports fan for the sports that I'm particularly interested. It's a really good time right now.
Hey, adding Coach Prime up at Colorado.
Yeah, that's a huge story.
Bringing some life to college football, a little bit of showmanship, which is something that's been missing.
Absolutely.
Like you said, the Rugby World Cup is going on next month. Well, the Rugby World Cup is going on. I'll be watching the Cricket World Cup. Some of it I'll be following. I won't be necessarily watching it. The Cricket Asia Cup ended this week. And we had all been waiting I had been waiting for Pakistan to play India again, because it's always really, really fun when Pakistan plays India. Now, the first time Pakistan had India the first time they played in this particular tournament, because they played in the group stage, then they played in the second Super Fours, and then they had Pakistan beaten Sri Lanka, they would have played in the finals. The first time they played, Pakistan kind of had India on the ropes, and it looked like they may get them. And then the game got called because of rain.
Oh, man.
So the second time
that's the only game that rivals the old firm. Pakistan-India cricket. That game is nuts.
Well, the second time they played, India batted first. There was a rain delay. Pakistan never got in the game. India beat the living doors off of them, which made it impossible. Pakistan absolutely collapsed after that, and they lost to Sri Lanka. So it was a Sri Lanka-India final in the Asia Cup, which is a 50-over match on either side. Why was the entire game over in like 26.2 overs? Sri Lanka scored 50 runs, 50 in the entire, and it took India like an hour to get them all out. And then, of course, like with that low a target, India it took them like 10 overs to get it done. It was the quickest match I've seen in forever, and it was like, what a letdown. The tournament had been really, really fun, and then you had this. Fortunately for me, it was happening at about the same time that South Africa was playing, so I turned on that game in the Rugby World Cup, which was interesting. I mean, South Africa showed again against Romania, and I know we'll talk to Kim on Wednesday. We'll do a real recap, because we definitely have to dive into that Australia-Fiji result.
Well,
the first time in 7 decades that Fiji, and the only coach in the world that might be worse at his job right now than Eric Ten Hag or Mauricio Pochettino, who has a better reputation, is Eddie Jones, who has managed to somehow make Australia into a different version of England, which is to say that neither one of them are winning with any consistency at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I was watching a bit of the Ireland-Tonga match, and then after a while I was like, okay, I can't. It's over. It's hard. And of course, I will never watch Romania play again. But
there's no point to it.
There's no point. But like Fiji hung around that first game against Wales.
Mm-hmm.
They had a good shot there. And in fact, Nigel's brother-in-law, his wife's brother was at the game. He had tickets there, so he flew into France to watch that game. But, Cam brought up some very good points about Fiji. And he was like, look, they're close, So I'm looking forward to diving deeper into
because
that.
that's really the only upset that we've seen in the entire tournament.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of chalk this tournament. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that more. Before we really get started, I want to bring in our good friend. We haven't spoken to him in forever. I mean, I forgot that he was actually still a person. Los, how you doing, my good friend?
Los?
Doing all right. Got to get my my audio going, my video going here. Give me a moment.
Sure, you got a round of El Gato, right? You can't come on without
it's the Gatos here.
One of the correspondents.
So we've got Los and El Gato joining us. Before we get into stuff happening with Spurs and Arsenal and North London and all the football related stuff, gentlemen, as I was doing my show prep for this, I ran into a story that I absolutely love that came out. A guy by the name of Matko Miljevic, who is a 22-year-old midfielder for CF Montreal, had his contract by MLS or by CF Montreal terminated because he played under an assumed name in a local indoor game because he was upset.
I saw that. Yeah.
About the lack of playing time. So he went and he played in a local indoor game, which wouldn't have been a problem, even though he was technically recovering from injury. Maybe not the worst problem in the world, but then he punched another player. Remember, these are amateurs in a local indoor league, a men's indoor league. He punched a guy, got banned for life, and then lost his job.
You play a man's game, you take a man's chances.
Yes. I think that he wins my award easily for Bonehead of the Week. To have a professional contract, I know that you're not necessarily getting your playing time like you would want to, and he's graduated the a product of the Boca Juniors Academy. So, it's not like he's not used to playing in a high stakes environment. To put yourself in a situation where you decide to go out and play for a men's rec league team under an assumed name, but then punch one of the other players and get yourself banned from a rec indoor league for life while being a guy who is on a MLS roster. Yes. You just really, I hope that shot was worth it because, dude, you're going to be looking for a job, and apparently I hate to say it, but he wasn't anybody who was starting. So that, I guess, if CF Montreal found him to be replaceable, I'm pretty sure that all the other MLS teams are going to find him to be replaceable too. So good luck in the Central Uzbeki League. If you can hang on in the third division of the Central Uzbekistan League, if you can find a way to get there, I don't know where you're going to be now. So, Los, it's been a while. How you been?
Doing well, just really, really, really busy. Don't know if you guess we talked about it a little bit on this show almost a year ago. I retired from education, no longer in the classroom, working in the industry of flooring, new construction flooring, not actually doing the flooring, but just setting up and scheduling people to get their floors taken care of and such like that. So helping homeowners get their homes the way they want them, the way they paid for them, that sort of thing. I'm the guy who helps to get that all going. So it's not as how would you say not as a fulfilling job as education is, and teaching young minds to be better and be a profitable, prosperous citizens of this great country and of the world. But I am providing a service of some sort, trying to help people get the home that they want. So,
well, I mean, if you're happy, I'm happy.
I'm happy. Get to work with the wife. We carpool it. We listen to the same show in the morning, and then we argue on the way home what music we're listening to. It's driver's choice.
Lowe's, I'm in a similar
is.
boat, and in a similar boat with you, Lowe's, as a fellow retired teacher, but who's working with his wife, but we take separate vehicles to our job sites.
Well, we do on occasion. If there's a need for me to be somewhere after work and she doesn't want to be there, then guess what? I have to drive myself. So
yeah. No,
Got
mine's
to.
just because only one of us wants to go to the dump. So I was like, okay, I'll take that separate car.
Hey, look, somebody's got to do that too.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Lewis, the Ange Postecoglou era, I guess you could say, maybe didn't get off to the most auspicious beginning with a 2-2 draw against Brentford to start the season. But since then, there's been one guarantee pretty much throughout the whole entire season thus far. Tottenham will score multiple goals in a game. If they play their starters, they will score. You're going into Sunday's North London derby on the back of 4 consecutive league wins. I know that they went out to Fulham in the EFL Cup on penalties, but Ange is focused on getting the Premier League together. Yeah, a Saturday's game might have been a little bit tighter than you wanted it to, requiring the latest goal of all possible late goals. I mean, what did Kulusevski score? And that goal came so late it happened the next day.
Yeah.
But
I'm still rolling.
A win is a win is a win. Multiple goals after beating United in Bournemouth 2-0. Absolutely late.
Wait. Who did we beat first? What was that first one you said?
The first one. Listen, I'll talk about Man United when when Chelsea Mike and I do the mid to low table report, because that's where you'll find us. And like, if you want to gloat on beating a team that is going to struggle to beat Burnley this weekend, by all means, go for it. But right now, I feel like beating Manchester United when they're away from home isn't that big enough of an accomplishment, because everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'd rather play Man U than Brighton right now. Jeez. That seems scary.
Brighton's
right.
scary.
Well, Brighton was showing
actually,
flashes.
I make fun of you because Spurs only scored 2 goals against United, whereas Arsenal and Brighton both managed to score 3.
Well, this year, I mean, remember there was that 6-2 a few years back. So,
But this year you only scored. But that was under Ole. So, listen,
I won't say anything because we lost 8-2 to Man U, so I'm okay. Yeah,
that was a generation ago.
I don't like talking about past seasons and bragging about old things. It's like bragging about a girl you hooked up with in high school.
Easy to say when you guys are all in the top 6. All we have is the glory days.
I do want to say this though about Spurs and Ange. I mean, I clearly was. I mean, I'll eat crow. I was completely wrong on my assessment of that squad. I didn't think they'd be bad. I thought they would be still competitive, but I thought it would take a little while longer for them to really hit their stride. The games that Spurs are playing are extraordinarily entertaining. The addition by subtraction clearly was very evident with this squad. Taking away Harry Kane, I think, actually opened things up for the squad a bit more.
Who was
exactly,
that? Who?
Exactly. Byron Harry. We'll call him Byron Harry now. He can hang out with Rob.
Harry.
And look. I'm not going to say that Harry Kane was bad for the squad or anything like that. I wouldn't do that either. That would just be idiotic of me. But I look for who Spurs are playing now. I want to watch that game. It's an entertaining game. And what I see why all the Celtic fans are still just bitter, because the flow, I mean, it's fun. I feel like I'm watching an old firm derby week in and week out with the way they're playing. And look, Arsenal, that's all I'm gonna say is Arsenal, you better come correct, because I know everyone's expecting Arsenal to probably win this game, but let's pump the brakes here. This is going to be a fun game to watch, though. I mean, it's going to be great to. Hey, look, I would love to have the North London derby, have it be a pivotal game so we can figure out who's going to finish second this season, because that's all anybody's really playing for. But it will be something to watch. I think Spurs are going to actually My bracket's already blown up. I'll put it that way. My standings, they're it's gone. I lost. I already lost. I'm glad there's no relegation list.
I think I had, if I'm not mistaken, I think I had Spurs going fourth this season.
I think I'm fifth or sixth. Yeah.
I think the only person who had him at second, I think it was Russo. He has Spurs as two. And so he saw something that I didn't see, because last year I had Spurs at one. I thought we were going to do something, and we did nothing. So anyway,
this squad is
this squad is something else. Let me tell you what, the additions,
the gel is working.
The additions and the addition by subtraction, like you said there, Stead, is really made a difference to the team this year. To be honest, it seems like Harry Kane was a bit of an albatross, if you will. He was a great goal scorer. He could put the ball in the net, great striker. Everybody wants to have him on the team. Problem is, it took away from other opportunities of other people to get in there and show what they could do. And I think we're seeing that this year, in that him not being there, there are other people that are, I've got to create now. We can't lean on Harry to go ahead and try and pull us out of this. We got to go out here. We got to go ahead and do what we can. Yeah. So we picked up, I'll tell you what, the signing of the summer, James Maddison. We've been looking at him the last couple of years, but Leicester had been up there, and all of a sudden Leicester's no longer up there. They got relegated. So they had a fire sale and got rid of James Maddison because they could. And he is just fit in so wonderfully into the system. But Yves Bissouma has taken on the midfield captaincy, if you will. And he's not the captain, but he is taking charge of that midfield. And he's all over the pitch. I think I sent you guys a heat map of where he was in one match, and it's like, wow, there's a heat map all over the field, because he's all over. It's almost criminal to know that Conte had this guy and didn't play him, and that's a lot of Spurs fans are upset about that, and so the no love lost with Conte, obviously no love lost with Mourinho, and believe it or not, no love lost with Pochettino, because he kind of broke the unwritten rule. You can't go to the arch rival, you can't go to a Chelsea, you can't go to an Arsenal. Sol Campbell found that out in the 90s and 2000s. So, you can't do that and expect the Spurs faithful to still be in your corner, because it's not going to happen. In fact, the Ange Postecoglou song that we have has you can keep your Pochettino, your Conte and Mourinho, and even Christian Gross. That's how the lyric goes. So it's definitely a different mentality. The Spurs fans are behind Ange. He's so behind him. They have two songs for him. So at least right now they have. Yeah. So it's amazing. But Yves Bissouma has been wonderful this season. James Maddison has been wonderful. Richarlison finally showed he can score and he can assist. He showed he can play, and it was really good for his confidence. And Mikey, you were talking about the Spurs starters scoring goals. Well, the starters weren't doing anything until the subs came on in that last the match against Sheffield, and those are the guys who came on and did something in the extra time. So it's kind of amusing to watch the game, how they're doing the extra time, because Sheffield was doing all they could during the match to try and go ahead and drag it out and try to get, have time waste. And they added 12 minutes at the end of regulation. And it's like Sheffield fans are like, what? 12 minutes? Well, you wasted all the time during the match. It could have been less if you just played the game. But, it's the way it goes. And then we scored 2 in stoppage time, including that where you said the latest in EPL history.
I'm shocked to learn that the team functions better under Ange than it did under Conte or Mourinho. This is a team that clearly likes to run. And now that you have Richarlison, despite his inability to score goals, is a guy who likes to do a little bit of running. Certainly, these are guys who like to play forward on the front foot, and they have a little bit of pace to them, which is, again, not necessarily Harry Kane's greatest attribute, but we know from watching Ange at Celtic, he likes to move. He likes to play forward. He likes to run. And all of a sudden, it's got to feel like the shackles have been taken off, because he's just said, okay, I want you to go out. I want you to run forward. I want you to move as fast as you possibly can with the ball while maintaining some sort of technical know-how, where prior to that, you had Mourinho and Conte, who were both managers who offense was a bad word for them. It was almost a sacrilege to try and attack, So I'm shocked to learn that this team, with these players who have displayed these abilities previously, are flourishing under this new system. I think, this suits what you bring up, Yves Bissouma. I think this suits exactly what he would want to be doing. Instead of being asked to continually track back and play in this like static, tired sort of way, he's being asked to quarterback a pretty dynamic attack. And if I'm him, I'm going to be looking like, this is what I have always wanted to do on a pitch.
Well, it's kind of amusing how, I'll be honest, the first couple of games, we had, I think it was 6 goals, and one of them by a forward. So it's like, okay, well, one of the forwards is going to click, because that's when the things are really going to get exciting. And we saw it happen in this last match. We saw Richarlison get in there, and we saw Kulusevski get a goal. Actually, that's Kulusevski's, I think, second goal this season. And with his right foot, even with his right foot, that was I think what threw off the goalkeeper. I think he was expecting Kulusevski to cut back and hit it with his left, and he just went ahead and took a shot with his right, and boom, into the net. Because if you see the keeper for Sheffield United, he's just standing there. He's not even making a play on it. He's shooting what? And guess what? Game over. So while we're on the subject of the Sheffield goalkeeper, it is there are a few Spurs fans who seem to think that it's okay to utter racist epithets to opposing players, and it's not right at all. And I hope they find out who the guys are who were saying that, and they ban them for life, because there is no room for racism. It's got to go.
They are not representative of the Spurs fans as wholes. So
correct.
They need to be, that element needs to be gotten rid of. Before we need to let you go, with what limited time we have remaining, Los, I want to get your opinion of the upcoming North London derby, and then give Stead a chance to give us his. So
well, Stead already did. He said it's going to be something to see. It's going to be a game to watch, and I know he's I guess Stead, I got to give you the benefit of the doubt. You have actually seen the new improved Spurs, and it's giving you some food for thought. These guys are good. They like to play front foot forward. This is contradictory to what we did under Mourinho and Conte. And to be honest, players like to play like that. They like to keep attacking. They don't want to sit back and just have the game come to them. They want to go. They want to press. They want to go ahead and attack. They want to score, because in the scoring is the glory. So that's where everybody wants to be. So that's these players are excited about this, the new coach and the way the team is playing now. And you can see it. Even the guys who are subs or aren't even subs, but they're like on the training squad, and they get to sit next to the bench. You see how excited they are about this team and about the results we're getting. So it is an exciting thing to watch. It's good to be a Spurs fan right now. Check with me Sunday afternoon. I'll tell you if it's still good to be a Spurs fan or not after the North London derby.
Stead, how do you see this going?
I think from an Arsenal perspective is because the one thing they should be paying attention to really is like, look, Spurs will score goals. Arsenal, out of all the teams in the top 6, top half. They're kind of on the low end when it comes to goal scoring. So, the hope is that the way Arsenal's been able to control games can somehow influence this game going forward. But I'm totally speaking from a general Nutty fan perspective. But I see this as like a 2-2 draw. I can see that probably playing out. I feel like these teams are probably pretty well matched. I feel like Spurs are punching a bit above what everybody thought they would be at this particular point. But it doesn't seem like they are playing in a way that's like better than they should be. You know what I mean? Where you see some teams they'll get an early season run and you're like, yeah, but they're going to come back to earth. That's not really how they play. I just not seeing that with the Spurs team. And I also think that Arsenal's not clicking with the way they should be right now. I don't. I think Arsenal still has some play styles to figure out. I mean, I'm glad they did the right thing to get Havertz off the field because he's not ready to start yet. And but Martinelli took a knock. He might not be playing. We'll see. But I think it's going to be an exciting game. And the hope is that everybody gets off the field and nobody really gets further injured, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, nobody wants
injuries. Nobody wants injuries. I see this actually being a draw and
could very well be. And here's
City,
the thing about the system that Ange is using. I mean, it is exciting. It's forward thinking. It is gas pedal down to the metal. It is pushing forward. It is am I still there?
Yeah,
you're still
okay. Also, my screen went blank. Okay,
we got you.
Yeah, but with that also comes the possibility that the fast break could catch you, and with this system, and we saw it in the first game with Brentford, we're going to give up goals. We're going to have goals we don't need to be given up, and it's and we shouldn't be giving up, but it happens, and it's going to happen under the system, and that's why 2-2 draw on Sunday actually isn't out of the realm of possibility, because it is very possible that the front line of Arsenal could get back behind Spurs. Could happen. This is one of those things. This type of setup is by design is you're going to give up goals, but on the other hand, you're also going to score goals, and this is I guess the risk in playing that system, but it's exciting to watch, and it's better than sitting back and watching Park the Bus all day long. And it was dreadful. It was like watching paint dry. It was really tough to be to watch the games and just like, oh, are we going to do something? Oh, go fast break. Oh, hey. Oh, okay. All right. But that's it. No, we got constant movement this whole time here. So and I'm excited to see the Spurs team playing as well as they are, and I'm hopeful that we can come away with a victory on Sunday, because that would be well, of course, North London Derby notwithstanding, it would give us more of a firm grasp toward the top of the table. And that's it's a pie in the sky goal, but that's got to be your goal every year to try and win the league. And we got to win more games to try and get there. So right. This is another game we got to win.
Real, somebody's got to finish second this year, man.
well,
I'm sorry. I watch City. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it does look like they're a bunch of high schoolers playing against under eights or something. But I'm hopeful that somewhere there's a chink in the arm here.
Yeah,
somewhere, and we continue playing like we're playing, and can continue with this. And that's a tall order, man. We have 5 games in. You got 33 games left to play. Now, granted, we don't have all the other tournaments. We've got one other tournament to deal with, the EFL Cup, which would affectionately
you're already out
the Man City Cup. No, we're not. We're out of FA.
No, you have the FA Cup still, yeah.
Yeah, FA Cup.
You're out of the EFL Cup, so you don't have to.
Okay, all right. Well, whatever. We got one left. One possibility left.
Look,
so,
man,
and that's as tough as the schedule is going to get for us as far as demanding Whereas the other teams that are got Europe to play for, and that's going to cramp their style, going to cramp their schedule. Maybe, just maybe, they might be a little tired by the end of the season, and maybe, just maybe, if we can keep playing like we're playing, we might have a chance.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to make it unanimous and say I'm going for a 2-2 draw. This is going to be really, objectively, this is the first biggest test of Ange's system at Spurs. And this away at the Emirates, these have been the ones where, at least when he was in Scotland and going into bigger teams in Europe like this, those have been the ones where he's tended to falter a little bit. I think that Spurs will score because that's what they do. But like you said, Los, they're going to leave some opportunities at the back. And Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard, the way they're finishing right now, you got to feel confident with them going forward. More importantly than that, Los, I'm going to take the Eagles to beat the Bucks next Monday night down in Tampa. And that's the only thing that I can say that's going right for me right now.
You don't believe in Faker Mayfield? You don't believe in him?
No, I believe in Hassan Reddick. Anyway, Los, it was great to talk to you again, and we look forward to having you back on probably next week if we can get you to talk over the North London Derby with the guys.
8:30, Los. We'll get you on. Now you got to go to bed.
Yeah, I got to go.
Not far behind you, brother.
I'm feeling it. Let me go. Take care, guys.
See you,
Talk
brother.
to you soon. All right, bye.
I'll say this about City, though, man. That City game, I was watching that game, and I have never seen a team play better and lose 3-1 than West Ham did. Top to bottom, all the pundits, everybody was like, "No, West Ham looked fantastic," and they lost 3-1.
That's just what City is right now.
That's what City does. That's what City does. Because West Ham looked like a damn good team, and like, what do you do that you can do about it?
We got to get Andy back on because this is exactly what I thought might happen with West Ham after the drama with David Moyes. Like, we're not going to do anything for you over the close season because we want you to fail, and then he's going to come out and he's actually going to have a great start to the season.
Yeah,
and now you're left.
The way they thumped Brighton is amazing. Yeah, Brighton.
Brighton.
Yeah.
They are the team that beat Brighton, and Brighton just went in and pretty much took into Old Trafford and pretty much took Manchester United apart. And West Ham thumped them, right?
But they stomped Wolves. They stomped Newcastle. That was surprising. The Newcastle win. They thumped Newcastle. It's like, geez,
that's a tough team. That's a good team.
It's a good team.
The only problem with them is that they're very, 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 very thin.
Absolutely.
There's not a lot of depth.
They're two hamstring pulls away from falling back to 10th. Absolutely.
And again, you're relying as your sole striker on Mikel Antonio, who is a converted defender. And he's hamstring pull waiting to happen. So at some point in time, he's going to miss some goals. And at some point in time, they have to bring in some sort of reinforcements. But, for a team that was hoping that Moyes would fail after what was really a lackluster Premier League campaign last year, but you could tell after a while he was more focused on winning a European trophy than he was on the Premier League or league position.
Right.
And that's what they did. You got a European campaign in the form of the Europa League and a European trophy, which West Ham hasn't had since
47 years, I believe.
I thought Henry VIII was still king when they won a European trophy.
Yeah.
And so he made his decision, and that's what he went with. But I think there was a lot of malaise, and now you're coming out and you're saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, this is what I actually could do." And essentially, I have the same exact squad that I did last year because you haven't brought me any new players.
Yeah, minus your best player.
Minus my best player.
Yeah.
Right. So you took away my best player and I'm still winning. So yeah. All right. Hey, this is like the reunion show where we're gonna welcome all the people who we haven't talked to.
Yeah.
we've got Bayern Rob, who has been alternately on vacation and sick and traveling for work for the last 35 years, and we haven't spoken to him, and he's waiting in the wings. But I'm gonna bring you back for another back from a blast from the past. Um, I think last time we talked to this guy, I was a teenager. I didn't even have gray hair.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to drink yet.
Yeah, I don't even think I could legally drink.
Yeah.
Yves the Bartender, it is time for cocktails in La Liga with Yves the Bartender. My man, how is it going?
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to talk to you.
Geez, it has been quite a while, my friend. It is good to hear
It's been
from
a
you
minute.
again.
It's
It's
been a
good to hear
minute.
from you.
I've been crazy busy. I've been crazy busy.
So,
But
what I
it's
did.
it's good to reconnect though. It's really
Absolutely.
good to get to talk to you guys again.
So, first and foremost, thank you again for your recommendation on the Rob Roy. Like that has become like my go-to cocktail, and
That's true.
I feel so important. Like I feel so like grown up. Like I'm getting my grown man on drinking this cocktail.
I'm
And
glad. I mean,
so,
Yeah.
I don't feel super proud of this, but there was a time that I was having some issues sleeping. That's what I would drink to be able to sleep.
Yeah, my wife loves them. She loves them.
I'm a big fan. The first question is: you got another one for us that can manage up to that?
Well, I had one in mind, but now that you're mentioning the Rob Roy, you make me think of something that is very strong. The other day, I was doing some research in Spanish cocktails, just because I wanted to drink something like kind of pair with the Barcelona game, right? There is something similar to a Rob Roy, but they don't use the vermouth. They use absinthe instead. So you can imagine. So
I just saw Stead's
I leave you guys
I
to
saw
try that.
Stead's ears perk up from all the way over here. I saw Stead's ears perk up from 5 states away
Through the headphones.
through the headphones. Yeah, so absinthe.
Yes, it's exactly the same recipe. So 2 ounces of scotch and half an ounce of the absinthe. You spoon the same process with the spoon in the glass, and same thing, exact same thing.
What is this
So
called?
just remember that one. I think that I forgot the name. It was something like Evening Conquest, something like that. I don't remember exactly the name. I'll check on that and I'll get back to you. But I definitely have to try it, and yeah, why not? You guys try it too.
Stead is googling as we
Are you
speak.
kidding me, man? I got my other
He's
monitor
got-
over here. I'm like, I'm gonna find this.
So it's we are now just like we're through 5 rounds of the Premier League. We're through 5 rounds of La Liga. Shocked! I'm telling you to learn that Real Madrid and Barcelona are at the top.
Is it a Norman conquest?
Norman Conquest sounds about right.
Yes, yes.
I haven't forgot my old research skills. All right, yeah, sorry. Football.
Yeah, so football. Focus, my man, focus. So, Real Madrid and Barcelona at the top of the table. Real Madrid on 5 wins, Barcelona 4 wins and a draw. I got to tell you though, the one that surprises me the most, and I know it's early seasons, but after like 5 rounds, there's always that team that's up there near the top of the table that kind of surprises you. Girona in
Absolutely,
third.
absolutely.
So we love to play this game. What are the chances that Girona can stick and stay in some sort of European place in La Liga this season?
What are the chances to that? Honestly, that's lean to none, in my opinion, because yeah, there is a lot of transitioning in La Liga, and you're gonna see a lot of the teams that normally are strong, like Atletico, right now is struggling a lot. They don't seem to find the right players that fit the scheme that they want. They want, And Joao Felix was an example of this. And it's very easy to blame a player, you know what I mean? And it's very easy to say, well, maybe this guy is not submitting to the vision of the team or whatever, but they're simply just styles of players that are better for certain kind of mentality in a team of no. Atletico tends to be a very rigid team. It's like what Simeone says goes, and that's it. In Barcelona, there's a lot of fluidity. Like a player like Xavi understands that this game also has a certain part of a very high part of adaptability, and like you have to think on your feet. And for this, there's the restriction of the normal position sometimes trumps a little bit with that. So we see you see Joao Felix come to Barcelona this Sunday, and honestly, I didn't think that he was gonna do great, but after what I saw against Betis, I think that there's a very good chance that it was a good move and it's gonna pay out on the long run. So
So
yeah, we'll see.
I gotta say though, like the schedule to start the season has been a little bit more kind to Barca than you might think. Okay, you take away the opening draw against Getafe, first game of the season, but then Cadiz, Villarreal, Osasuna, and then absolutely hammering Real Betis. This week they open up their Champions League campaign with Antwerp uh, coming to Barcelona before they host Celta Vigo and travel to Mallorca. We have to go a ways, probably into October before you really start to see teams that could possibly get the better and compete with Barcelona. Even a team like Sevilla, who in that time, yeah, they're on the struggle bus. 3 losses
Yeah,
from
I wanted to
4.
ask you about Sevilla too. Like, what is wrong with them? But go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so on the one hand, it's got to be great. You can kind of ease into the season, but they're not really going to be tested much before they get into the stretch later on in October, where they have the likes of Athletic Bilbao and a couple of the Rayo Vallecano, those types of teams that can give them more of a test.
Absolutely, no, you're absolutely right. And times like these are very good to like solidify what the team is gonna look like and what the team is gonna be. Um, there are some players that I didn't like very much in the scheme. I don't like Romeo that much, even though that he kind of like does his function and does his job, but I really don't like his style that much. And I was very surprised that Gundogan, for example, was on the bench. But I guess that you have to like the season, as you said, the season is long, and you have to try some other things because you never know the circumstances. You never know when injuries are gonna come, and the team comes from a really deep struggle with budget and many other things that are going on with politics within the club, etc., etc. And so definitely, these kind of games are gonna be useful to solidify this what could be the future of the team. To give minutes to players like Jamal, that is he's 16. The other day he scored with Spain for his very professional like international score goal, and then now he has the same chance to do the same with Barcelona at 16. I really, really want to see this through. So far, he has assistance, but it's fine too. It's important to give time to these kind of players. The defense is still a little bit, kind of heavy, kind of weird, kind of in the woods. But I think that somebody like Cancelo is coming to accomplish a really, really important function, and he was so relevant defensively as much as offensively. Um, Obviously, you cannot say much about the offense against a team like Betis that they literally have two center backs for the whole season, and the team doesn't have money to buy anybody else. So they're struggling, and Pellegrini has a really a huge task this season with that. And if you analyze most of the center backs in that team were Barcelona from the school, Barcelona school. which shows a little bit of what the issue with Barcelona has been in regards with the defense. And still, I think that we need much work into that. Different players.
So, I do want to talk about Sevilla. Like they've been through like 3 coaching changes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like what is going on?
Sergio Ramos runs down there to save the day, I guess. But to see Sevilla in 17th after the recent run of form that they've had in La Liga, where, I haven't seen them flirt with anything below 10th, and they're, and of course I'm not even going to talk about the Europa campaigns because those have been nothing short of phenomenal. What happened? Granted, there's still a game in hand. They'll only played 4 matches, so you get a win that'll bump them up. But to see them down in 17 is a bit shocking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's shocking to see a team like Sevilla that historically has been in between, like, between the 5 top in La Liga.
Yeah.
I mean, it's financial issues as most of the Spanish teams are struggling right now.
Yeah.
Really, the only one that has money to spend around, and not even that much, is Real Madrid because they also have some restrictions in how they can spend the money and etc. But the sport is changing, and this Liga, La Liga, is particularly changing a lot. And we've seen this happen in other leagues in the past. It happened in the Italian league when the cash flow from La Mafia started like diminishing.
Mm-hmm.
Any moment that the money starts being a little bit scarce, the whole league suffers. It's not just one team that is affected, and especially teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid that kind of abused of their position of power for so long, and did so many things like underhand and tax evasion, etc., like every soccer team does and everywhere in the world. Um, so it becomes difficult. It was difficult for the other teams the small teams to compete, and now that the big teams are struggling, it's even harder for them because the big teams were the attractive to La Liga. So it's gonna be there's gonna come some trying times for most of the teams in Spanish league, and you're gonna see a lot of turnovers. You're gonna see a lot of things that are not gonna work out, and a lot of weird things going on. Still, I don't think that Girona is gonna go to an international tournament, but we will see. Maybe, who knows?
So,
And yeah.
so before we let you go for the evening, and we really do thank you for joining us. We're coming off of an international break last week. Not a bad one for Colombia. A win against Venezuela and a draw against Chile. But the funny thing is, Yves, I'm looking at this Colombian national team. I have no idea outside of Luis Diaz who any of these and Yerry Mina who any of these people are. Is there really somebody on the team who's starting who plays in Qatar?
Yes, so that's the thing. Right now, it's something crazy going on with the Colombian soccer. I was anxious actually. I hope we had the chance to talk about this. Um, Venezuela has always been one of those teams that Colombia is supposed to beat, but somehow they always complicate the game. And we won 1-0 only, which shows that Colombia keeps struggling with strikers. It's one of the main things that we have an issue, like somebody that just is in the area, like a classic nine that comes here and like whatever he does, just put the ball in his hands or his ball and he's gonna score. We don't have that anymore, and we haven't had it in a really long time. And Falcao was that, but the injuries, etc., and his time is over. He's way past over. So it's time to like look in other things. Recently, you will see in Colombian national teams, most of the players will be from the National League, from Cali, Nacional, the typical teams that have like the good schools that somehow like create those players. It's not just like random players that they just buy like most of the other teams. And um, so these people started like exporting all these Colombian players, and since the 2014 World Cup, we have become a little bit more popular, and more of our young players are getting to go to overseas, go to other countries, and get a little bit of experience. And if you look now in the whole in the whole roster, there is only one player in the National League, and he's the third goalkeeper. Everybody else is playing internationally in China, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in Russia. We have some players that are playing in Moscow, you know. So yeah, it's an exciting time, and I can't wait to see what happens. Still, we still need a lot of work in the connection between the lines. We still the team is a little too much broken, but it's getting a lot better in the transitions. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I'm excited to see what happens. And the tie with Chile is not bad at all. Honestly, I thought that we were gonna lose that one, but no, a tie with Chile is not bad. We just gotta keep working towards winning the next matches.
So anyway, great to talk to you. Great to catch up on La Liga and Barcelona, in particular Barcelona, and to hear a little bit about the Colombian national team, which features a lot of players that we're going to get familiar with over the next 3 years as they get ready to qualify for World Cup in 2026. And of course, great to hear about the Norman conquest. I'm going to have to find someplace that will serve me one of those.
Yeah,
So,
that's
Yves,
true.
Pleasure to catch up with you, and we'll get you back on next time we're on a Monday.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me, and I'll see you next time.
So, Stead, within that Colombia-Chile game, Colombia is playing a lot of players who, like Yves said, are coming younger players, newer players, fresher to the national team, not the familiar ones that we knew from previous World Cup campaigns. Outside of Luis Diaz and Yerry Mina, and they have one other player who plays Crystal Palace, not a lot of guys that we would see in the Premier League, a few from Germany, but definitely a different type of squad. Meanwhile, you've got on the other side of that game, Chile. I was shocked to find out that Gary Medel is still playing. Chile is still starting Gary Medel, Arturo Vidal, and Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we started Michael Bradley for 10 years after we shouldn't have, but still
I mean,
come on, Chile. Come on.
I have some friends who are Chilean, and they will always appreciate that generation of Chilean players for what they did on the international in the World Cup, and especially in the Copa America. Winning back-to-back Copa Americas is no small feat.
No, absolutely not.
But even at that point in time, they were pointing out to me that this was an aging team. Like, some of these guys were old 6 years ago, and there was absolutely nothing behind them. And true to form, you're still reliant on some of these guys who are way, 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 way past their sell-by date. The only thing that a team like Chile has going for them is the fact that with the number of teams, like, what is it, like 60%, 6 out of the 10 teams, or 7 of them are gonna have a chance to play. 6 of them are going to qualify automatically for the World Cup. So outside of the likes of like Bolivia, who we would love, I know our good friend Coach Matt would be happy to see them, but like,
come on,
not for nothing, Bolivia and Paraguay are tend to be at or near the bottom routinely.
Yeah,
and
so much Miguel Almiron can do.
So with Paraguay and Bolivia being at or near the bottom, more likely than not, and I know that Coach Matt is going to tell me that this is Bolivia's year, and it's been Bolivia's year for the last, I don't know, 10 cycles.
We've known Matt for 7 years, man. It's been Bolivia's year, all 7 of them.
Yes, he believes. And so with the likes of Bolivia and Paraguay, more likely than not, it's like you've got the likes of Chile, Venezuela, and Ecuador essentially competing for 3 teams competing for 2 spots. So only one of them is going to get left behind. That makes it so that teams like Peru and Colombia have much, I almost want to say, easier paths to qualification as long as they can stay there. I know, and this is a perfect time.
Bring in Rob, yeah.
Rob, to bring in Rob, who again, somebody
Dude,
else.
Sanchez and Vidal have nearly 300 caps between the two of them.
Yeah, they've been playing.
I think they have 196 caps
I'm
between the two
pretty
of
sure
them.
that Sanchez and Vidal.
198, I think.
Yeah, Sanchez and Vidal played on Jesus's youth team. They were playing youth soccer when they were kicking around a rock. Like, no disrespect, I'm an old man, and they're old.
Yeah.
Like I was old and they were old.
Yeah.
I'm even older now, and they're still old.
A lot of miles on those legs.
We're talking about CONMEBOL qualification and how the expansion to the 48-team World Cup benefits a team like Peru, who have qualified twice now in a row, and Colombia, because you've got these once.
Well, 2018.
I'm sorry, like they didn't qualify last time around yet. They were in the final
playoff, against Australia.
Playoff, but you at least got that far. So even with this expansion, it's got to be looking more favorable for you to get into the next one.
Yeah, no, we have a good shot. We have a decent shot. The problem is that with Peru, they're just relying still. It's like the Chile problem, but like a little bit younger. Except for Paulo Guerrero, who's like he's like an old man walking with a cane, poor guy. But like they just keep relying on these players. I'm like, there's nobody in the ranks below them to like take over there. It's good enough. And so the last game I counted, there was more players in MLS in the starting 11 than in the Peru First Division, which has never happened before, which is kind of crazy. And one of the worst players on the team, I don't like him, Corzo, Aldo Corzo. He actually played like the game of his life, like at fullback, shockingly enough. But no, man, they just, they have a good shot, but like it's because the only reason they have a good shot is because there's so many spots. And Chile, I think, is trash, unbiased opinion. And Bolivia, look, they got the altitude, but like that's really about it. That's all they got. The altitude. I'm sorry, Matt. Look, I love you, Matt. We're Andy and friends over here, right? But like, one day I hope Bolivia makes the World Cup, so like I could see Matt's face. I want to see Matt bring his kids to the game, and enjoy. And I want Matt to sing the national anthem. That's why I want to hear it. I want to hear him belt it. But no, it's Peru, man. We're so close to a draw at home against Brazil, and then freaking they put the shortest player on the near post, and then it was over. It was done. And then I forget who scored it, but like it was awful performance by Peru. Anyways, I could go on, but I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm just only now, forgetting about that game.
So let's talk about your favorite league and your favorite team. You've got the Allianz in the background, sitting in a field of flowers out in front of or alongside of the Allianz. Bayern doing typical Bayern things. It was a disappointing early season start with a loss in the Super Cup to RB Leipzig, but they've found goals. They found Harry Kane, and since then, with the exception of the draw this weekend against Leverkusen, who are in first place, it's been Bayern doing Bayern things.
Yeah, no, definitely. They've done well. Even the Leverkusen game, there was moments where Bayern was showing their dominance, but this is one of the I've been saying it in the chat for a while, like for the last few weeks. Like there's something about Leverkusen. Mostly when clubs fire their managers and they go for another manager, they just go for a retread. They just go for another like German and they're Austrian. But like Leverkusen were like, no, let's try something different. And getting Xavi Alonso, I think, did a lot for them because it's something different. He's worked his way up here. He's done the academy stuff with Real Sociedad. He's done the work, and he got a chance to go to a country where it's not super high profile, right? Xabi Alonso's known in Spain, he's known in England, Liverpool, he's known in Liverpool, he's known in Real. So but going to Germany, the spotlight isn't super on him, but still a big enough job where he can sort of learn a little bit more how to be a big club manager. He's brought fresh ideas. And with that, I think Leverkusen has done really well. They got Florian Wirtz coming back. After he came back to play after the World Cup, but it wasn't, it takes a while for a knee injury, for him to get going again. But so now that, he's fully going, they got this player, Victor Boniface, who's really good. He missed some good chances as well. Leverkusen could have easily won this game. It's okay, Bayern too. It was a good, nice, even draw match. And they're going to be neck and neck, I think, for the rest of the season. I really do. I mean, Leverkusen just have so many good players, have good coaching. Jeremy Frimpong stayed another year is helpful. Because I thought he was going to go to the City or some other big club, and he stayed. I think that's a blessing for Leverkusen. So I'm really happy he stayed and giving the Bundesliga just another team full of talent that could really take it to a club like Bayern, because, we need someone other than Leipzig, of course, right? Because Leipzig are doing Leipzig things as well. But, we need someone else to challenge Bayern and make it difficult for them and really push them. Because let's be honest, if you've been watching the Dortmund matches this whole season, it has not been Dortmund at all whatsoever. They just been down the tubes over there.
What do you expect when probably your best player over the course of the last 2 seasons and Jude Bellingham gets sold, and you really can't bring in a like-for-like replacement? They've lost Jadon Sancho, they've lost Jude Bellingham, they've lost Erling Haaland, and there's no way, again, just like when they lost Lewandowski and Götze and all of those players off of the Jurgen Klopp teams, you can't just automatically replace them. It takes time to bring them in consistency.
Well, I would counter that by saying Leipzig do it. They do it somehow.
I think the difference is with Leipzig is what we see. Leipzig, and maybe this is something that Dortmund need to take a page from Leipzig. Leipzig kind of start planning for replacing players about 2 or 3 seasons out. And they kind of know, this is okay. And Kunku's leaving after this season. That's when we intend to sell him. So let's start bringing in the replacement and scouting who we want, so they know exactly who they're going to get to bring in. And they do go from strength to strength to strength. But really, Rob, what has that strength to strength to strength gotten them? 1 trophy?
2 trophies to be exact with the Pokal for Leipzig.
Yeah.
But so this is my issue with Leipzig, right? So my issue is they hit on all their transfers for the most part, right? Szoboszlai goes and Kunku goes, and then they got Xavi Simons, who moves from Ajax to PSG, gets loaned to Leipzig, and he's just been on the tear in the midfield. I think he leads the league in assist. But
Danny Almo.
Yeah, Danny Almo's still there. So, it's interesting because the Dortmund were pretty good on hitting on transfers and letting people go, letting players go, and then finding replacements. And that's great, right? But I think the issue was they don't want to be that anymore. They want to do that too, but they also want to be able to find players who are a little bit advanced further up in their careers, so they'll get them in their prime and they'll stay and they really contribute, like a full crew, for example. Which, by the way, I think that was a panic buy. I mean, I know he helped their comeback versus Freiburg this past weekend, but I think that was a little bit of a slap in the face to Sebastian Haller, who's been just awful, by the way, this whole season. But
wait a second. I'm shocked. And no disrespect to Sebastian Haller. I understand that he's coming back from cancer
But he was
right?
so good in the second half of the season. He was so good.
He was so good in the second half of the season, but there was a reason why West Ham looked at him as probably one of the biggest wastes of money that they've ever had. And that's who Sebastian Haller is in his career. He can have these amazing patches where he looks like he's going to be a all-world striker, and he looks the part. He is a big guy. I think he's what, 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". He's a big guy, but then when he also can just go through these passages where he looks lost in a game and he just
Yeah.
does not score goals.
It's so bad. He was so bad this year so far. I think like his touches are off. He has no goals, no assists for the number 9. The starting number 9 at Dortmund has no goals and no assists. Like I don't think he even has a hockey assist if we count it. So yeah, so Fulkrug is a good move for them, but that's a player Dortmund want. They're trying to do that. But you're right. Like Jude Bellingham, we see what he's doing in Real right now. Like imagine that piece, and then I just think like also like
when we talk about
I'm not a fan of the
Jadon
manager too. Go on, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, but when we talk about, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when we talk about Jadon Sancho, you said like they bought what they were doing was what Leipzig were doing. They were identifying young players
Yeah.
who were eager to come to a team like Dortmund that was consistently in Europe, where they knew that they were going to get starting minutes, where they were going to get Champions League minutes. They would play them, and then they'd allow them to move on. So you signed a Jude Bellingham when he was 16 years old from Birmingham. You took Jadon Sancho from the Manchester City Academy. You picked a player like Pulisic and Reina and offered them their first professional contracts. You gave Erling Haaland a move from Norway down to Germany, where you were willing to put a buyout clause, knowing that he was going to leave after a couple of years. And so that was what they were, and that's what Leipzig is doing. They're buying these players who were just on the cusp of breaking into stardom in a guy like Xavi Simons, who we know is probably one of the next big things, but a lot of teams want to see him make an intermediate move from Ajax to someplace else, coming in and, Leipzig said, all right, hey, we're going to take this. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to sell him in about 2 or 3 years. The same with Vardial, who they just did that with. Like, that's what they do. They get them young. Dortmund has been at their best when that's what they do, but they always do the same thing. They get to a certain point where they've had a little bit of success. They finished, you know, top two, chased Bayern, and now all of a sudden they think that they've got to change what it is that they do best if they want to challenge Bayern, and it just tends to end up after a few years of doing that, where they end up where they are now, and they're languishing towards the bottom of the table. And like you said, you got a misfiring Sebastian Haller, who they probably overpaid for, and West Ham were happy to sell because he wasn't scoring goals for them, and that's who's leading your line right now.
Yeah, no, and I think you're going to see Fulkrug lead the line more. But the question is who's going to be making those decisions, because I think the seat's getting a little bit hot for Eden Terzic. I know they escaped with the win versus Freiburg, but they did not look good. And the only reason they really won it because Freiburg went down a man, and that was it. And then one of the goals they scored was when Freiburg were down a man, and then another player was hurt on the sideline, so they were down 2. And so then that's when Hummels scored his goal. And defending on a free kick or a set piece is hard with like you're missing 2 players. So Dortmund, they don't look good. I thought they would come up better after after the international break. That didn't help. That didn't really work either. I don't know what they're gonna do. The problem is like, like it seems like there's a disconnect in the organization. There's a lot of Turkic fans. There's some who are not. They're not on the same page. And I know you got the Jude Bellingham money, but like I know you spend some money on Fulkrug, but like when you have Jude Bellingham money, you bring in big players. So you bring in the next big player. Like who's going to come in? Who's going to be the next Jude Bellingham who's 17, 18, 19, who needs a shot and at a big club, who's going to be able to blossom like a Jude. And didn't find that player this offseason, and I think that's what's really struggling for them. Their midfield in tatters. Marco Reus is another year older, and they have no solutions there. They're just in a rudder. Like it's, one of the things we talk about with Dortmund is their mentality, and it seems like the second place finish last season really did a number on them. They have no answers. They're almost like stuck in depression. And that's what separates big clubs from the second level is when you have a big event like that. What do you do about an event? Do you retool? Do you figure it out? And Bayern are a team like that have had devastating moments in their history, and they've responded very well. And Dortmund just don't, and that's who they are at the moment.
And I don't want to make it sound like, yes, Dortmund are struggling a little bit, but let's be honest, they still haven't lost.
No,
Unlike,
you're right. You're right. They still haven't lost, but
they haven't lost. They've got 8 points from their first 4 games. There are a lot of teams in a lot of different leagues that would love to have 8 points from 4 games. In fact, another team that before we bring on another one of our lost boys, let's talk about Union Berlin, who are going into their first Champions League campaign. Perhaps more than Dortmund, they are really struggling. The only wins that they have this season are over the bottom 2 teams in Darmstadt and Mainz. They're getting ready to go into the Champions League. They're not clicking quite like they were last season. What's going on the east side of Berlin?
I just think it's a lot of new pieces. I think it really is. They brought in like a lot of players. I mean, I think they even brought Benucci in. And I don't know if he's suited up yet, but there's just a lot of new players. Gozes is there, who actually did really well this past weekend. But I just think they got to work on their chemistry still. It's a big year for them. They're doing Champions League. Obviously, they got the Pokal and they got the league, and they're really going to try for the Champions League. They're going to really put in their effort here, and I think that's really been a hindrance for them. And this is just part of the path to becoming a big club. Like, are they going to become the next echelon of club in Bundesliga? Union Berlin has historically been a club further down the pyramid, and now this is a little bit of the rude awakening. And I have full confidence that Earl Fisher and the staff over there and Union are going to figure it out. There are smart players there. They have good pieces there. They just got to mesh. They need some kind of mesh. They haven't had a lot of time to a lot of transfers, a lot of movement in late in the transfer window. Because of that, it's going to take up some time. I think Europa is a good goal for them, and maybe if you make it out the group in Champions League, this is it's a win, right? But I think they're here for the party. They're gonna enjoy the party, they're gonna enjoy the festivities, they're gonna enjoy hearing the anthem, and it's gonna be a growing opportunity for the club itself and also for their players, because I just think when you go against the Real Madrid, even though they have a lot of older players on that squad, they're just too good in general. So Union are gonna suffer a little bit, but you know what? It's okay. They've earned the right to be here. They played well to be here. I wish them luck, and I think they'll do okay in the long run. Maybe not this season.
All right. So the last thing I got for you is the Hansi Flick era as a German national team coach was short and not particularly stellar, and so like the drummer from Spinal Tap, he too explodes. Who's the likely candidate to come in and take over for Der Mineshaft?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I think there's 3 candidates at the moment. I think there's Julian Nagelsmann, who I don't think is good enough he's not his job. He's not a national team coach. Louis van Gaal, who runs people. I mean, he irks people and rubs people the wrong way. And also, he's not German, but they might, there's certain people in the DFB who want to change that, who want to be like, we should hire somebody who's not German. And then probably Stefan Kuntz, who did really well with Germans' youth teams, just got fired from Turkey. as their head coach. Ironically enough, because he lost to Japan, just like Hansi Flick got fired after losing to Japan. Uh, so he's another contender. I mean, I think it's going to be between Louis van Gaal. He wants a job. All indications are he wants a job. The question is whether the DFB will suck it up, their national pride, and give it to a non-German. And there are, Louis van Gaal has made enemies along the way. You know, and Mike, you have experience with him as your manager over
Uh,
United.
I don't think he's a good club coach anymore. But again, with what you saw, what he did with the Netherlands,
Yeah,
if you need a pinch hitter to come in and get you back on track as a national team, he's got a pretty good track record doing it. The only problem is, I guess the black mark would be like mostly he's only done it with he is a Dutch guy who has done his best work recently with the Dutch national team, and I don't know how that's going to work going over to Germany. But you've got the steady hand, the old European campaigner with national team and tournament experience, and Louis van Gaal, and then a guy who would be a Yogi Love type hire potentially in Stefan Kuntz, who may be a year or two away, I guess, from being what you might want from having the best um, sort of pedigree to be a national team manager, but you run the risk if you don't get him now when you need him, he's not going to be there. So I can understand where the DFB is in this, and it's going to be an important hire because really, since they won the World Cup, the wheels have kind of fallen off of that project.
it definitely has been. Just they look like they have no direction. They get the ball. It's like every team they play against, for minus Spain, of course, we're like, here, have the ball, do what you want with it. And Germany are like, okay, we have the ball, but they have no answers whatsoever. They have no creativity. There's just no one really besides maybe like a Leroy Sané who can break down a defender on the dribble and cause havoc. And even when he does, there's really nobody in the middle to finish it anymore. Um, so they're just suffering. I mean, they look bad. And honestly, though, like I think it was a good. I mean, look, it sucks that Hansi Flick got fired. I mean, because he's the first German Bundestrainer to get sacked in the history of the DFB. Um, and can you imagine if he lost to the US next month? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like the chaos? I mean, Jurgen Klinsmann would be like kind of like, on two different minds, but in general, like the football world would go, or the football world would go freaking bananas. So yeah, no, maybe it was time to go. And I hate to see Hansi Flick because I have fond memories of him in 2020. It's a crazy year for all of us, obviously, and I got a lot of joy out of what he did at Bayern. Um, just real quick, Mike, before we I want to talk. I just want to mention one more thing about the Bundesliga here. A team, Stead knows I always talked about Freiburg. I talk about when you're in Berlin, as teams to look out for. I think this year you want to look out for Stuttgart. Something about Stuttgart is happening over there. They sorted a lot of their issues out on the front office side of things. They got Sebastian Hoeneß, who comes from Bayern pedigree, did really well at Hoffenheim, but he got the sack because he didn't do good enough. He's over there. He saved them from relegation last season, and he has them at fourth. And he has his striker, Garassi, from who played in France, who's French, who's scoring a bunch of goals. He had 8 goals already. So he's 2 away from double digits so early on in the season. I don't think that's going to continue, but Stuttgart, I think, have something really going on over there. So they're want to keep an eye out. I don't think they're going to be fighting for a European spot. They might not make it, but the very fact that they went from relegation contenders to like really close to Europe is really encouraging. I think they're going to be a team you need to look out for. I think they're a good squad. They're building something there, which is encouraging. It's very nice to see from a historic club. Stuttgart. We all know them as the makers of Mercedes and Porsches over there, but solid club, a lot of history. So it's nice to see them doing well again.
Well, thanks a lot, Rob, for coming on and joining us, hanging out. Good to see you again. Get home from New Jersey safely, and we'll talk to you next week. And so, Stead, as the Too Many Guys reclamation project goes along with this show, let's turn our attention to one of our long lost friends. He was on a couple of weeks ago to talk about hip hop, but he hasn't been. This is the first time that we're going to talk to Rob Prophet since the old show when we were still the two guys and we were still doing this on the phone. Rob, how's it going, Bobby?
Yo, hey, it's going. How you doing, gentlemen?
Good to hear your voice. Good to talk to you again. We can make this real quick with some of this stuff. Manchester City continue to do Manchester City things. Yeah, like is there anything that we really want to talk about with respect to Manchester City?
Rob, we were talking about City earlier, and the one thing I said was all the comments I've heard is about how well West Ham played in that game and still lost 3-1. And it seems to be that's just what City does. So I'm sure that just to kick it over to you, that's been my assessment of the team. It's like you see clubs who look fantastic against City, and it still doesn't really matter.
But my pattern that I've seen as of recent is that they fall asleep at the beginning a little bit because it's kind of soaking it all up, and then they fall on their feet. They almost get caught out there, or they do get caught out there on an early goal, and then they wake up and they just keep waking up. I mean, you're sometimes the counter goals are again fast breaks or situations where they could be doing better on defense, but when they wake up, they just keep coming at you. They have so many different ways to come at you, and they just keep going. They just don't stop, and that's how you win trophies. You don't stop. You just keep going, try to score as many goals as you can, and keep marching forward, looking ahead. And that's what they've been doing.
Yeah. What do you say? I mean, they are a machine, and coming off of last year where they're defending European champions, they look like the best team in Europe this year. Guys, I got to say, the only thing that I think that might trip them up would be the having to go to the Club World Cup, right? That could be a little bit icky. We've seen things like that, but all signs point to them doing a Real Madrid. Now, what nobody has ever done is a repeat treble. So if Pep really wants to put his name in the record books, that's where it is.
His name's already there. He just wants more and more trophies. Like he was talking recently, that one trophy is good, but it's not something special. It's like we have the chance to do something special here, and special is more than one. So they're looking ahead. It's just okay. Here's a triumph. We did this first trophy, second trophy, third trophy, treble. You got the Champions League. What do you do next? You keep winning and you keep going. See how many times you can lift that trophy to put your name in the record books and to change the whole culture of the club. I mean, they've done that, and that's what they're going to continue to do. Is the march is always ever forward, not let's look at our accomplishments. No, let's get some more, and that's the mentality there. And if you are a sports fan and that's your mentality, it's like, yeah, why not? Why keep going? Yeah, seeing how far you can take this and how far it makes sense, and that's what they're doing. And as a City fan, it's amazing to watch, seeing as I remember seeing them when I started watching them before the money days, and it's just been wow, you couldn't ask for anything more. There's a lot of crazy moments, a lot of shady moments where you thought classic City, everything's about to work, and then something doesn't. And now's the story forever and ever and ever. And finally, you break the curse.
So we know that you are a big City guy, but I've always known you, and your first love is Italy and Juventus. We probably, Stead and I, collectively have not paid enough attention to the stories of Juventus over the last probably couple of years, mostly last year moving into this year. The financial issues, the points deduction, but most recently, the big story that broke over the international break was the story with Paul Pogba reportedly failing a drug test as a result of a supplement that he took while he was over here. We all know that Pogba loves to come over to the United States in the summer for vacation to hang out with Kevin Durant and all those other people who he only knows through Instagram. He took a supplement that he most likely got from GNC on the recommendation of somebody. It contained a supplement that created artificial testosterone. He failed a drug test after probably the only game that he has played in the last 2 years, and now faces a 2 to 4 year ban and a likely termination of his contract. Points deductions, hidden money being. Oh, and I also forgot to mention Cristiano Ronaldo is suing them for wages that were deferred.
I think
during
19 million euros. I think.
Yeah,
because he needs more money. He needs more
And
money.
then, and then isn't Benucci suing them also? I mean, let's add on to the pile of Juventus things that. Oh God, as a Juventus fan, an honest one, because I'm an honest Yankee fan, I'll tell you our downfalls or whatever is. I'm honest about it, and that's how I've always played with sports. But with Juve, they they take that whole mentality like Manchester City has, now, like the ever forward, ever forward, ever forward. But then they go a little too far on things. They reach a little bit too much, and it happens all the time. It happens every so often with them. You know what I mean? It's one of those situations where they grab too far, they push their influence too far, and then they get caught up in something that probably they could have avoided. I mean, Paul Pogba. Let's talk about him for a second. I love the guy. I always have, especially when he's with Juve, and he's back. And he's the thing with him. He's got a lot going on right now. He's another one. I think he's having some issues with his brother stealing money from him recently. That was the whole story.
Yeah, there was a blackmail extortion plot going on with him. The injuries, like he didn't play hardly. I think he played like 40 minutes all of last season as a result of injury. Like after making the move back, he's got a lot going on. You know what the funny thing though, Rob, is as much drama as there is, as much of a Shakespearean soap opera as surrounds Juve at this moment, they're second in the Bundesliga. Or I'm sorry, they're second in Serie A, right behind Milan. They're having a pretty solid start to the season with a team that when we looked at the league at the beginning of the league, we were like, okay, they'll struggle maybe to get into Europe. They might make the Conference League, they might make the Europa League, but I can't see this as a Champions League. And they're at the top now. Again, Napoli, a team that I thought was going to run away with Serie A again because they basically brought back the same team that won it last year. By all means, they are not firing at all. But somehow Allegri just has this team of basically used parts going out and playing effective football and winning.
To me, it speaks to two things. One, Allegri, because I remember when they first announced him the first time, I was like, oh man, I'm like, to me, it's like I'm a Milan reject. That's how I felt about Allegri. I'm like, this is gonna be his problem. And then he does what he does, and I'm like, okay, wow, okay, you changed my mind. And he has that talent, especially with Juve. And again, it's him and Juve, and then Juve itself. You're a Manchester United fan. You know the magical Manchester United moments. The ones we see on the highlight reels all the time. They have that. Certain teams have that quality and that affinity for those kind of finishes and that kind of drama and being able to pull it off. And Juve has that in Italy for sure. At least in the national league, they definitely have it there, where they can make those magic, annoying, make you want to hate them moments. So it's those two. Allegri being a great coach, working with Juve previously, and then the magic of Juve together. That's what it's working on, and let's see how long that goes for.
And I don't want to sit here and say like, hey, I'm not even going to bother asking at this point whether Juve can potentially win the title with the team that they have, because listen, over the last couple of years, Serie A, since Juve's streak was broken, Serie A has consistently been won by a team where I'm like, okay, I necessarily see that one coming. So all I know is when it comes to Serie A and when it comes to Italy, the best thing that you can do is expect the unexpected. So what would be more unexpected than Juve with a team basically full of Americans? Remember, they've got Tim Weah and Weston McKennie on this
I
team
love
right
it.
now.
I never thought. When I started watching them, they never had an American player. For the idea of an American player being there and then actually doing well and starting, I mean, like to me, it's amazing. It just it shows the globalization of the game and its popularity here, where I would have never imagined and like dreaming
McKinney's
about.
playing well too.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
McKinney's playing well,
Wow.
and Weah's getting games.
Getting
I
some burn,
mean,
yeah.
like, he's
I
getting
love
he's
it. I
getting
love it.
he's getting more playing time. I think they've played 4 games or 5 games, and he's played in those games. So he may not be starting, but he's being used, and so you can't complain about that, man.
It's
So
beautiful. I mean, we're out there, like again, we're Americans are out there. Americans are doing things that people know these guys. They're becoming not household names, but coming close to it in certain places. That's great. That's what we all wanted. That's what we all wanted was something like that. And look, we're talking about Americans on Juve. When did
yeah,
you think we'd be saying that? And it's and to
Yeah, for
to the
real.
level it's at now.
Especially two of them.
yeah, and
Crazy to
and
me.
and of the Americans that we would talk being effective at a team like Juve, those were not the two that I would have ever picked.
Definitely
If
not
you had
Weah.
said like, yeah, definitely not Weah, probably not McKinney being the one that breaks the ice, I would have said like, oh, Christian Pulisic will go there,
Right.
and nah, but
Mhm.
yeah, I can't sit there here and say I saw that one coming. All right,
Well,
but
it's also good
Rob,
to see, one thing, as far as McKinney's going real quick, is that he was there and he was playing well. And then when the point deduction and all that started happening, he became expendable, but he was actually playing effectively for UA for a while before that. And then to see him
he
return
likes it there,
yeah,
and they like him.
and they like him. They like
Yeah,
him.
like he likes it there. They like him. I think, Rob, you mentioned it. Every once in a while, you have a group of players and a coach, and it just seems like Allegri fits Juve. Juve fits with Allegri. They will be more successful together than they will be separated. We've seen what happens when Allegri doesn't coach Juve. We've seen what happens when he does, and that's where he's best. McKinney plays his best soccer in Italy. He plays his best soccer at Juve. And so, like, this partnership, it wasn't good when he went to Leeds, but now he's back. He's
Mhm.
playing well again. Allegri trusts him. It's not like he's playing games. They like him. He likes their.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's all very, very positive, in my opinion, for that player.
It's
So,
positive for everybody. Honestly, to me, it's positive on a global level. Look at this again: Americans in leagues on teams we would never have dreamed of when you and I was started watching this stuff and paying attention to it. That this would be something that we were talking about years later, and again, it's beautiful. It's great that it means we're coming along. You know what I mean? There's a progress here.
all right, buddy. It was great to talk to you. We'll get you back
Great having
on.
you back, Rob.
Great having you back.
Little
Great
by
to hear
little,
from you.
little by little. It's been good to be back. Like I took a long, long, long break from sports for a while for a lot of personal reasons. You and I spoke about this before, but now it's like I think I'm getting to a point where now I'm able to deal with the stress of being a sports fan again. The positive and negative stress of it. And
Mhm.
yeah, man, and again, just from the stuff I've been watching recently. There's a lot of exciting things for both of my teams. There's drama, but there's always drama surrounding Manchester City and Juve. That's always they've always kind of been. But all these teams have that's our soap operas or the dramas around the teams that we live and die for every weekend. So I'm there. We're there.
All right, Bobby, we'll get you back, man. Great to talk to you. Great to have you again.
All right, gentlemen. Pleasure as always. I'll catch you.
All right. Peace, Rob.
I'm pretty sure I've told this before, but you all, everybody who's on this show who works with us knows that I'm a jersey fanatic. I have a ton of my the very first soccer jersey that I owned was a old Juventus away jersey that Rob gave me.
Oh
Christmas
yeah.
one.
Oh yeah.
That was the very first one.
You got me back with jerseys. You said jerseys, and I see how I creeped back into the conversation.
I used to. He also gave me a Man City jersey, but I sold that later on. No disrespect, Rob, but
I'm not mad. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all.
I had to make a profit, but yeah.
Ooh.
We were going to change tracks a little bit, and we were going to welcome in our Philly connection, the gruesome twosome, Chelsea Mike and Professor Matt. How goes it, gentlemen?
We're good, Mike. Yourself?
Good. A little bit of business that we have to take care of. Matt, I'm hoping to see you next Sunday when we go out for dinner.
I should have a definite on that within the next 48. So,
looking forward to it as always. Mike, it would be great if you could make it, but I know that you don't have that sort of connection to Philly anymore. But we're going out for
I'm 2 hours north of Philly. It's a lot for dinner.
Yeah, I understand that. Matt, there was something that you brought up. I didn't fully get, but that you wanted to talk about something involving Eastern European and club crests and things like that. So let me start with let me go to you first on that one.
yeah. So I never thought we'd be talking about fourth division German football on this podcast, but here we are.
Nothing is out of bounds on this podcast.
We make it up as we go along.
I talk about the lower leagues all the time, Matthew.
This is true. Way, way, way back in a galaxy far, far away, there used to be a country called the German Democratic Republic. They had their own league, and as most, Soviet satellites or, Soviet client states or modeled states in Central and Eastern Europe, they had dynamos. They had several of them, actually. And the one, which was the team everyone loved to hate, was Dynamo Berlin. Pretty much owned directly by the Stasi. In the 1970s, they were the Bayern Munich of East Germany, but they did it, let's say, somewhat fraudulently. Matches weren't rigged or anything, but when your sporting director is in charge of the secret police, players move in rather weird directions. Refs make calls that, they perhaps shouldn't. Flash forward 1989, Berlin Wall comes down. Both leagues merge. The club reaches rock bottom, and things get weird because the transition between state socialism and capitalist ownership and the privatization of stuff. It was funny everywhere but in Central and Eastern Europe, including in Germany. So the crest, the club crest, with the highly stylized D. And look, I'm not an expert in German copyright law. Maybe Bayern Rob knows somebody who is. Got bought in circa 1990 by the East Berlin chapter of the Hells Angels. And for the last literally 30 plus years, the club has not been able to use its original crest. And if you were to buy you mentioned jerseys, a Dynamo Berlin kit, and I own one, you would have to go to this store in what was East Berlin, which was operated by the Hells Angels. And you'd go in there. Their girlfriends ran the shop, or at least they were behind the counter because I assume the Hells Angels were selling other things. And so you had to buy your like retro merch, or if anyone wanted to, use that crest on German television, they had to pay the East Berlin chapter of the Hells Angels money. Apparently, over the summer, unbeknownst to me, that has been resolved, and the club can now reuse the old crest. If you go to One Football, it's no longer this weird like I always called the Berlin City Crest the pugilism bear. Just like a bear who wants to box you. So they were using that goofy thing, but now it's the old crest. And yeah, apparently this 30-year long bizarre saga has been resolved somehow.
I want to make sure that I understand this. A club that was originally organized in East Berlin by the Stasis.
Yeah.
After the collapse of East Berlin and the Soviets and the coming down of the Berlin Wall, which necessitated the merger of the two leagues into the DFB that we know today, reached rock bottom there in the 4th Division, and their logo was bought by the East Berlin chapter of the Hells Angels.
That is correct.
So they hadn't been able to use their proper logo for the last 3 years, while the Hells Angels were running their merchandise store, is now able to use. All right, gentlemen, from the world of soccer, something that you cannot make this stuff up.
We'd be talking about Hells Angels on this show.
Of all the places
there's not enough Hells Angels chatter on this show. It's true.
Of all the places where I thought this story was going to go, and Matt and Mike, Matt and I did this a while ago, but we need to do this again to freshen it up. We do need to go back through the Eastern European names, because to say Dynamo, to say Spartak, to say CSKA actually denotes where and whom that team typically represents, and so there are certain things that come along with these names that we tend to see throughout Eastern European leagues, because so many of them have the same club nomenclature. Every Eastern European league has a Union, has a CSKA, has a Dynamo, has a Spartak. All of these names keep reoccurring, but a lot of people may not actually know where those names come from, what they mean, or why they're so often used. Rapid is another one that we see a lot. So just sitting down, and we'll do that on another time. But man, of all the places where I thought this podcast was going to go, and I didn't quite lose control of it like I've done in the past, I did not think that we were going to talk about the East Berlin chapter of the Hells Angels. I've got to recover from that one.
I broke Mike.
No, you didn't break Mike quite. I'm good. Liverpool comes up with a good comeback win against Wolves this weekend. The project seems to be working. The question, though, that we've got to ask is, Matt, the defense. That's going to become an issue at some point. You solve the midfield. We can talk about it. I think the midfield is a little more solved than we thought it was going to be. We can talk about the attacking strike situation. Starting Gakpo as your striker was a different sort of move, but Nunez comes on and kind of helps save the day. But I think the glaring issue is going to be the defense right now.
Yeah, and I'll give Klopp a lot of credit, because the first half of that match, literally nothing went well. And you're starting a back four of Robertson, okay. Matip, who's been decent this year, not horrible, but not the guy he was even 2 years ago. A dude called Kwanzaa, and
Kwanzaa with a Q.
Kwanzaa with a Q, and Joe Gomez as your right back.
Mm-hmm.
And the first things that came out of my mouth within the first 5 minutes were, why are we playing a high line? Why are we doing the inverted thing? Right? Because if you have Trent at right back, okay, you can move him into the midfield. Joe Gomez is not Trent. Joe Gomez is not, John Stones. He's Joe Gomez. First half was out of whack. The goal, partially on the back line, partially on Allison. I think could have done a better job there of guarding the post, but that is what it is. He made the tactical switches at half, and one of them was going to an old school flat back four. And were there still some hairy moments? Yeah, but it's stabilized. But yeah, I mean, look, I came on this program throughout the summer and said I wanted a younger left-sided center back. His name might be Kwanzaa, but I'm not really warm and fuzzy about that. And someone brought up, hey, both Kwanzaa and Mike's boy Levi Colwell were both in the England U20 team. They're roughly the same age, similar profile. And yeah, okay, that's true. But Colwell has a full year's worth of starting experience in the Premier League. I was only vaguely aware of Kwanzaa's existence up until the preseason. We heard of him, but I never really saw him. So yeah, that's going to be something to watch. And I was saying earlier, I thought perhaps, getting another defensive-minded midfielder in January may have been the move. I think getting at least one more body at center back, and ideally, although I can't see this happening, maybe a defensive-minded right back, not a converted center back masquerading as a right back. But we'll see.
You had mentioned before that one of your nightmare scenarios was Joel Matip having to play that right-sided center back or playing at all in a situation where your right midfielder is playing that inverted midfielder where he runs up and plays as essentially as a defensive midfielder. And it looks like over the course of the last couple of games, that's what you're going to get for a little bit, right? Yeah. Matip hasn't been a problem. I think that you might be a little bit. You need to get somebody else in. But has anything in his performance changed your take on that?
I don't think he's been bad. The question always surrounding Joel is, when does he pick up the next Nick? And, availability is part of the question there. Where I agree with you about the midfield is we've definitely gotten more creative. We also have a lot more bodies, which is nice.
Sometimes you just need bodies to throw at the problem.
Right. So
Bajcetic is still coming back from injury at some point. You started Curtis Jones. The fake, what was it? Enzo, the fake Enzo is there.
The samurai Enzo.
Yes. Is there to so of all the issues that I think that Liverpool have, I'm not 100% sure that midfield is one of them right now. I'd actually be more worried about the defense, and I would echo your sentiment. If Klopp is going to continue to play a system where he asks his midfielders, and especially if he asks his defense, and especially his right back, to do the things that he asks Trent to do when Trent is in there, then he needs to get somebody who does what Trent does, because you can't ask Joe Gomez to do what Trent does, because Joe can't do that.
You have to at least be flexible enough when you don't have Trent in there to go to a more traditional back four. And the other thing in the second half that impressed me was we still played a high line, but I've been saying this from time to time again. You can still play a high line. You can just move it back 10 yards. And that 10 yards makes a world of difference. So I was impressed. I think for me, Klopp was quote unquote the man of the match on Saturday for making those adjustments at half. But the sort of warning signs in that back line, particularly when we're not fielding the usual, starting four, was all there to see. And in some ways, I guess it was lucky we were playing Wolves, because outside of Neto, no one in that front. I know Hee-Chan got the goal, but no one really can punish you.
Matthias Cunha is gone, and that would have been the guy that would have scared you the most. But thank you, Manchester United. You made him look like $100 million player, and now he's off. So other teams don't have to deal with him. So, all right, Mike, this is a point where I never thought that we'd be. You and I have to do the mid-table report, and compare to see who is worse right now.
Hey, I was responsible for that report for like 4 years.
We're now going to commiserate over who sucks more, Chelsea or Manchester United.
No, we do. No, it's us.
Yeah.
I have hanging behind me right now. I have hanging behind me my goalkeeper kit from when I played. I'm not wearing a jersey right now. And I'm not wearing a Chelsea jersey again until they get better. This is awful. We just drew Bournemouth 0-0. Okay, it was away. Yeah, all right, fine. But and we're hurt. We're hurt. We're really hurt. I mean, let me go through what our bench was this weekend. Cole Palmer, Ben Chilwell. Okay, why didn't Chilwell start? I don't know. Ian Maatson, Georgie Petrovic, David Washington, Alfie Gilchrist, Lucas Bergstrom, Alex Matos, Ronnie Stutter. Michael, combined, they have like our age. Like, we have our U12 team out there. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad for us right now. Why is your team worse?
We're going to struggle to beat Burnley.
We couldn't beat Bournemouth.
Bournemouth is above Burnley in the table. Burnley is like 18th. Burnley is 19th. Now, I know that they've had a tough time, but I never thought that I would see a time where I would go into a Manchester United game away at Burnley, away at the 19th team in the league who has all of 1 point in the Premier League, and really look and say, you know what? We're probably going to struggle to beat them. And it would not at all shock me if this was a epically awful couple of week period for Manchester United coming up. And I'm just saying, yes, as a fan, but also objectively, like, if you took the brand away and said, based on form, what were they doing? Going away to Bayern Munich with the players that they have, they're probably going to get the better part of thrashed. It may be 3-1, it may be 4-0, but I don't think that either of those digits are going to come out in Manchester United's favor. Away to Burnley, where, again, I think the 18th team, currently the 18th team, and they've had some tough games, right? Had to play Manchester City. They've had to play Aston Villa. Burnley is a better team than their 1 point. And United are really bad away, I think they're going to struggle to beat Burnley. And if they come away with a draw, which would normally look pretty bad, that might actually be a positive result for them. And then you've got 2 games against Crystal Palace in the League Cup and in the league, where they're going to have to go again. Crystal Palace above them in the table. The one thing that United has never done under Eric Ten Hag, they've never beaten a team that was above them in the table away from home. So I'm not saying like one team is worse than the other, but they're both in the same position where we're looking at two, Mike, we're looking at 2 kind of fallen giants. The one thing that you can say that United can is you've got a litany of injured players with a lot of quality that are going to come back. The United squad is a little bit thin, where you've got a striker that you paid. You got a striker you paid better part of $90 million for, who scored 10 times in his career in the top league, backed up by Anthony Martial. Both of your wingers, your top wingers, and Jadon Sancho and Anthony, are away from the team right now because of one, because of a disciplinary problem, the other one because he reportedly beat 3 women and he needs to stay away from the team. So we have what we thought was going to be a strength is no longer a strength because it's not there anymore. Christian Eriksen is still Christian Eriksen, and he's a very talented player, but he got a year older. So the person that we brought in was a guy that you didn't want in Mason Mount. Bruno, I don't know.
Thanks for the money.
Yeah, I don't know. And we are 2 injuries away from starting Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans at center back. All right, which situation would you like to have?
I mean, well, I'd still rather be in your situation.
Which is what we are like literally 1 point above you in the table right now.
I know. Unhurt. Unhurt is what I would like my situation to be.
We are not unhurt.
I know.
We do not have Rafa Varane. We do not have Mason Mount. We do not have a full complement of players. We just have fewer than Chelsea does.
Chelsea's D isn't bad. You only give them 5 goals. It's not too bad, right? I don't know. I'm trying.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, Stead. I really do. It's at the wrong times is when they give up goals, and Chelsea are completely incapable of scoring goals. I mean,
that's
they created
the big thing.
That's true.
That is the biggest thing, and that's not. And that's the funny thing. That is the one thing that has remained an issue from Tuchel to Potter to Lampard now to Pochettino. They cannot score, and the number of attacking players that were brought in with the express purpose of scoring goals, they cannot score goals.
Well, really, okay. The only person who we brought in who was kind of the true 9-ish sort of person, Nicholas Jackson, has over these first games just proven himself to be completely ineffectual. I mean, it's like Kai Havertz level ineffectual. Like, I think that, like, you know that drill in practice when you're playing soccer where you have to hit post crossbar.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas Jackson is exceptional at hitting posts on the crossbar. He can't hit the back of the net, but he hits post every single game.
But like, that was you paid a lot of money for him.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, in this day and age, I forget what it's in the neighborhood of 50 million is really not that much for a lead central attacker.
Yeah, but you paid 50 million. You paid 50 million or so for a guy that you thought was going to develop. Now,
Well, he's had 5 games to develop, in fairness, but I mean,
not to develop, but you were selling me on the fact that this was the guy. I
because
understand.
you know what? Because I'm telling you, I was selling you on this guy because in the preseason we saw that interplay he had with Mudryk, and it was there. It was there in the game.
Yeah, but
He
nobody
just didn't
tackles during the
finish.
preseason.
Well, okay, all right. You can
Defenders
argue
don't.
they don't go
Defenders.
hard.
Defenders don't tackle.
No, but
Nobody
it was there.
tackles.
But it was there in this game. His interplay with
Mason
Mudryk
Mount. Look, okay. Anthony
was
Martial
good.
was good in the preseason. Listen, Stead, Matt, Mike, we watch preseason NFL football.
I don't. No, no, I
We followed preseason. Don't tell me that you haven't followed preseason football. I know you too well to know that you haven't. We see the preseason all-stars every year. There's these guys who look like they're going to be the next big thing in the preseason, and then when things actually happen, they don't do it. Anthony Martial was scoring goals in the preseason. He doesn't do it anymore. Nicholas Jackson may have had a great interplay with Mudryk in the preseason. It's not catching any weight, but he's actually not supposed to be. I guess you're leading a line. Ostensibly, one would assume that was the purpose that Christopher Nkunku was brought for, even though he's not really a striker. If you want, he's more of a center forward. So it's going to be real interesting to see how he functions when you put him. I've said this before, like you get a lot of ill-fitting parts that aren't designed to do the job that they're being asked to do.
Well, I mean, Michael, you're talking very lamentingly about the preseason. We're still out there wearing preseason kits. Where's our kit sponsor? It's still the preseason to us.
Why? What? That is a weird question. Like, what is the deal with the sponsorship? Like,
there was a gambling thing, and then the Chelsea Supporters Trust, who I'm a member of, kind of shot that down, and now there's another sponsor. I forget, it's something like Elite Athlete, and the Premier League they're being wangs to us. They're just being wangs.
So
just bring it back old school and go with like Coors, like straight up banquet beer.
Well, they're wearing those like 90s jerseys that had the
Exactly.
core sponsors. Yeah.
well,
anyway,
hopefully
Mike,
it's not that cut where you're wearing a garbage bag with a collar. Those are the worst fitting jerseys I've ever seen.
Oh God, I don't understand how they were the worst fitting jerseys, and then if you have one, it's all straight up polyester.
That's this right
So
here. This
not
is
only
this
that,
is
not
vintage
only is it
98
heavy,
right here.
not only is it heavy, it itches like all get out. Like, who goes out? How these guys manage to play 90 minutes essentially wearing the soccer equivalent of a leisure suit is beyond me.
No, I should bring out. I have a keeper kit because back in my day, we didn't wear short sleeves, kids. It was an Adidas technology. It was this lizard skin. It was all black. It was like this thick. It was like, I don't know, wearing the Philly Fanatic on you.
You're like wearing a tire.
But it had this lizard skin that was so technologically advanced. It was not. It was just straight
I'm going to
up.
give credit to the guys who played back in the 60s and 70s and before with their heavy cotton jerseys. Like, those were a thing. But man, what we thought was jersey technology in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s was not. Really, it was not. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to have to tick, 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 tick. I'm being told by my producer that it is time to go to bed, so we're going to have to wrap this up. It has been, Stead, we did a good job. This was the Too Many Guys Reclamation Project.
Absolutely. Brought back lots of old heads.
I mean, like, you couldn't have had a show where you had more old heads involved. We got Los on, who we haven't talked to in a dog's age. Eves, who we haven't talked to in forever. Rob Prophet, who we haven't talked to in forever. Bayern Rob, back from work, vacation, work, disease, work, whatever.
His whole life's a vacation.
Yeah, we got him back. I mean, it has been a really fantastic show. It's been great to see all of you have everybody back in. And of course, can't forget our stalwarts, Professor Mike and I'm sorry, Professor Matt and Chelsea Mike. Yeah, it's getting that time. That's how I know it's time to go. Coming every week. So yeah, it was good.
Yo, wait, can I rip a plug one time?
Yes, please do, because I stopped a couple of minutes before I was going to, so that you can do exactly that.
It's for the channel, man. It's all for views. Whatever. Yo, watch Bayern Rob and I ripped some women's soccer cards. He ripped an Asasat Ashwala autograph out of 150 and a whole bunch of other great cards. Watch the other content on this channel. Like and subscribe.
Stead and I, at a minimum, hopefully with Celtic Cam, are going to be back on Wednesday to talk Rugby World Cup, because we really need to break down this Fiji Australia game and preview. You know, like we said, Stead, the beginning of this has been chalk, but we're now into the serious part of this tournament where we're going to see some actual games and some teams that really need to compete. So I'm really looking forward to doing that on Wednesday. Gentlemen, it's been a great time. So for Los and Yves the Bartender, Rob Prophet, Bayern Rob, Professor Matt, Chelsea Mike, and especially producer Stead, I'm Mike. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next.